All right, and we are live. Welcome to the BrainDrive Weekly Development Call Update live stream. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, where we update on our development progress from last week and plan out the coming week. Our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the operations side here at BrainDrive.
And I'm Dave Jones, and I handle the technical operations side here at BrainDrive.
BrainDrive is our MIT licensed open source personal AI system. It runs on your computer locally, and you can use both cloud and local AI models. And everything you see on your screen here is under your complete ownership and control, and is designed to help you define and reach your goals. We call this AI powered self improvement. And as you can see, when you log in here, you have different areas of your life that you can talk about. And the goal of this is to align around what success looks like for you. This example is your career. Once you've aligned with your AI system on what success looks like for you, you come up with a plan together and then you start executing and updating on that plan. So this helps you really get focused on what matters to you, define what that success looks like, and then start executing on that success. And this is also for anyone who's worked with AI, what you need to do in order to have AI help you jump in and help take on some of those tasks. And
Mhm.
that's what we're in the process of adding to the system now is the agentic capabilities. This system expands via tool use, so the code stays very small, decoupled. Each component stays decoupled and swappable, which allows you to upgrade your system by swapping in and out any component, but also to uh, make your system infinitely extensible through the use of tools instead of adding a lot of code to your system. It's built on what we refer to as the personal AI architecture. So if you're here on the call, you can participate in helping us build out BrainDrive, but you can also use the personal AI architecture and BrainDrive as an example to build your own AI system. And we have a community over at community.braindrive.ai where you can go for support and also to jump in and join the discussion and help us build the future of user-owned AI. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dave for the tech update from last week.
Okay, let's share my screen, and there we go. There we go. Now we're sharing. Let's go through the change files. On the text-wise, it looks pretty small, like we didn't do anything, but there was just actually a lot of behind-the-scenes thing, and I finally got to actually do some coding and some different stuff, so it's kind of fun. Uh, we got the starter pack memory update, where that is when you update, when just every Monday we do an update. Some of the changes would involve updating prompts, the agent files, and such like that. And if you're a new user, you'd automatically get them. And the concept here was to not overwrite what you have immediately without ever looking at it, and at the same time not force the user to deal with that diligence. So we wanted to use the AI model, the intelligence, to take a look at both the onboarding starter pack changes coming in against what you currently have in your agent file in each of the different directories, find the differences and make the changes for you. And then when it's done, it will, let's go back over here. It will give you a notice that gets up here, and it'll say, "Hey, I just updated your starter pack for your prompts and stuff like that." And it'll have a drop down if you wish to take a look at what those changes were. And if there was nothing, it would tell you that, "Hey, I didn't do anything." And if some cases, let's say you're an advanced user, you went crazy in the agent files and you did some stuff that just basically changed the whole thing, the AI might say, "Hey, I don't know what to do with this," and it will tell you that as well. It was like there's just too much there for me to deal with, and it's going to put it back in your ball court.
So a
Um,
couple things to point out here, Dave,
yep,
that I think are unique is a lot of the uh, activity within your brain drive is driven through agent.md
yep,
files, the system prompt, and the agent.md files that give instructions to the AI around your different pages, whether those be the career, the relationships, the finances, whatever you want, starting new projects. And so there's sort of two sides to tech updates.
Yep.
One is the actual code of the system, which, as we've talked about, is deliberately very small.
Yep.
But then there's the updates that need to be made when we add new features and functionality or make changes to what people get when they sign up for BrainDrive in terms of these agent.md files. And a lot of the power of BrainDrive is driven through these agent.md files, which is another way of saying it's giving the AI model the power to make changes to those files and to update those files based on how you want your brain drive to work because it is your AI system. So when we do updates, there's the code side, and those updates are kind of take it or leave it.
Yep.
But then there's also the updates to the files within your system, and those changes are going to roll out for any new person downloading and installing BrainDrive
Yep.
for the first time. But if you're already up and running on BrainDrive, you may or may not want those changes. And
Yep.
this is where we're leveraging the power of AI to be involved in those updates and to act as sort of your developer to tell you, hey, this is what's in this update. I've looked at your files.
Yep.
This is what's going to change. And to sort of act as that advisor. So it's not just to take it or leave it. You can decide with your AI what you want to do with that update.
Yeah, and 2 points to that. It was like the to-do system when we added that, you basically did it because it was entirely prompt based of how it was introduced and stuff like that. And then when coding this, I did a first version of this that involved touching 52 files. And we talked about it because I was like, hey, this is getting pretty difficult for any user to be able to manage. And then I turned around and we said, yeah, we both agreed on that and went back and recoded it. And this one only had 4 actual code files that had changes to them, but the rest was then prompt work and telling it what it needed to do and how to handle it. And then of course display it to the user. So that's going into effect today, and we'll start testing that out and make sure it does exactly what we want. So throughout the week, we might do a couple updates just to test the prompts and to make sure that that's updating as we expected. Um, Going through, continuing. Let's see, we fixed a few mobility issues. Dave was out of town this weekend, was jumping on it from his phone and said, "Hey, this is wrong." So Nav and I started jumping in. Well, these were my just changes, and I don't think there were a lot of actual changes to the client. Most of the changes we're dealing with the hosting side, but we're going to get them cleaned up throughout this week. But I've handled mine, and that was it. And then we had testing, a lot of testing in the background so that from end to end, and that means from the client on the user's machine to models to hosting, not just going through our test routines, but even how we can facilitate that and leverage AIs to help us narrow down things and get it ironed out without actually too many users getting involved. But
And
other than
where are
that,
we at on that?
we're good. We're good. I was able to use it on Friday. I was saying, hey, do this. Now it's a matter of as I encounter things, seeing if I have anything loose in the testing that just didn't get thought about and
And
stuff like that.
when you say testing, like what you can stop
Well, you
sharing now.
okay?
What
Okay. When we're coding, let's say, good example, the chat screen wasn't responding correctly when you put text in on the mobile phone. The testing means, and because you are using the managed hosting side. So in order to really test that, we would need to have the same thing happen in a test environment where on the client side, we put a message in, the client behaves like it did for you, but not how we wanted. So we want to facilitate to make sure that was it a problem in building the image on the hosting side? Was it a problem with variables being inserted that were incorrectly to identify this is a production image and those kind of things? So we have to test not just from a client perspective, but from end to end. From here's the client side all the way to I'm the application sitting on the hosting side and it's being loaded. And that's what end to end is.
okay, and these tests are they in the repo or where do they live?
Most of them are in the repo. As we iron them out, I'm putting them in there. If they're in like they're currently, I'm testing when I do the change log to the email process of that to the Monday playbook. That is still coming together. They're individually coded, but I'm waiting. Can I do one Monday run where I don't have to change anything? And then they get put together into, hey, This is all I got to do every morning on Monday morning. Press a button and it runs. And I'd love to get even better than that. But when I can just run from end to end Monday of no issues, then they get put in the repo. That way, if somebody else plays with them for whatever reason, it's not like, oh my God, this is broke. No, I know where the issues are, or I'm testing one thing just to make sure so that people can come behind me and we have instructions to match. So, like to make sure you have a GitHub token set and those kind of things, and finding the nuances that exist in that kind of environment.
So today will be another attempt at
Yep,
that, right?
yep. I had a
Okay.
token issue this morning for some reason. GitHub wanted to clear my token. It's like just something to make sure that this, one clean run. That's all I'm looking for. But the changelog worked perfectly. It emailed perfectly once the token issue is fixed. And then I will do the Monday playbook, which last week worked perfectly. So I'm not expecting any changes there.
Great. And from my side, I've kind of reoriented our marketing plan around starting with the personal AI architecture, which is the architecture that BrainDrive is built on, because we've done a whole lot of work on that and it's
Yep,
basically done.
yep,
And we want to make sure we're getting the word out about that. And in doing so, because BrainDrive is the example system that we've built on top of the personal AI architecture, hopefully we can get some developer interest involved with BrainDrive as well as people building on top of the personal AI architecture. And this will give Dave and Nav some more time to start adding additional features and
yep,
functionality into BrainDrive, which will help that make BrainDrive a lot more exciting for our ultimate end user. We refer to her as our Katie Carter
yep,
persona, who's that non-technical user who will eventually get the idea that owning your own AI system is way better than being locked into one of these big tech AI systems, but needs a lot of feature and functionality to be excited about and to start using BrainDrive for in order to start building that as excitement and discover, all of the additional things that we offer. And, I do think we're making a lot of
yep,
progress on that. And I think this last week was a little bit of like, we've done a lot of stuff, and
yep,
now we need to kind of batten down the hatches a little
yep.
bit, and proceed to the next stage.
And this week, Anthropic showed why users really need to step away from big tech a little bit because you have said you can do most of this stuff on using Claude Code. However, if you only had a $20 subscription, this week Claude Code got taken away from you.
Yeah.
Just art, you wasn't your choice. You could have had tons of files on there working. You got an entire marketing system at your fingertips, and you woke up one morning and it's gone.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you do in those situations? That's why it's important to literally own your process, especially if it's controlling your life or if you're
Yep.
using it to get somewhere in life. You don't want to wake up one day and you don't no longer have access to your life like that.
Absolutely. Here's our roadmap in terms
Yep,
of planning out the coming week. We are building out BrainDrive in 5 phases. Own is done. That is the personal AI architecture, the architecture that we're building BrainDrive on, and the first implementation, which is BrainDrive, which is a basic personal AI system that you can download and run completely on your own computer, whether that be with cloud-based models or local models, both. So that is done. And now we're in the benefit stage. And these are
yep,
all the things that we've done for the benefit stage. And now we're working on, we have a lot of things that are in testing
yep,
here, managed hosting for people that do want sort of the easy button for running this system on the internet instead of their own computer. But it's the exact same system. There's no difference. There's not a separate repo for this or anything else or premium, whatever. It's just we're hosting it, and you can always move to your computer or another host because it's your brain drive. So this is kind of the phase that we're in right now. And I don't know what your thoughts were on the coming week, Dave. I know we have some stuff on our agenda too. Let me pull that up while you're thinking through
yep.
what you want to be working on this week.
Well, for me, probably 2 points, and they're kind of on different spectrums. The PAA we talked about because we're starting to put a little. We want to kind of finalize that. So we have a text script or TypeScript version of if you wanted to be introduced. Perhaps we pick like Python or something, another language which people are gravitating towards, especially developers if you're interested in AI. Um, that should take nothing more than a day this week to, because hey, the TypeScript alone just took me a day to really put down. So that way, when people come to the PAA, if they're not a TypeScript coder, because not everybody else is, but if you're into AI, most everybody knows Python. So they could get it, and that could be creating a CLI version of BrainDrive, because most people would probably do it in either Python or Rust or Go, one of those environments. So that would put a completely different take on what BrainDrive could be from that aspect. And then
Okay.
from on the BrainDrive itself side, I really think email would be one of those things we don't have, and we need to start opening up connections to other things. Especially when we start looking at to-do lists, we want to look at the pulse, the heartbeat, because once email is set up, which would just be an easy little conversation going outward, that opens up for getting daily to-do lists, things of that nature, so that now BrainDrive is communicating with you, not just you communicating with BrainDrive.
Right. Okay. So um, I definitely want to work on I'm putting together like a mini course like we have for
Yep,
BrainDrive for the personal AI architecture. And I think just getting through that first, and I'll need your help with that.
yep,
That can be our personal AI architecture work for this week
okay,
rather than building a new version of
yep,
that. Because I think once we have that, it's like, okay, here's the personal AI architecture, here's the first implementation of it, and here's a 30-minute course
yep,
on building your own AI system using that. I think that will allow us to get a lot more buzz on Reddit when we go out with that
yep,
announcement. If people can start building on it, it'll allow us get us a lot of feedback instead of people just like, hey, I started, it looks cool. It's like, no, I tried it out. I ran into
yep,
this issue or I did this. So that should really help drive that forward. Um, and then also that's kind of like the last piece, right? Because you
yeah,
have all the documentation, you've
yep,
got the template, you've got the primer, and it's like let's just do a start to finish build on this
yep, that
and
works.
show people. And that will also be the cutover for Digital Brain Base, the community, and the YouTube channel because that user base, which we built up when we were working off of Open Web UI instead of building our own system, is not really our Katie Carter
Yeah,
persona. That's our Adam Carter persona.
yep,
That's our developer persona over there on that channel. And I think we can sort of rebrand that channel for the personal AI architecture. And that's how we can sort of keep the Katie Carter, we'll keep BrainDrive, that YouTube channel focused on our Katie Carter
yep.
persona. And we can have all of our developer content over on the old digital brain base YouTube channel, which will become the personal AI architecture YouTube.
That works for me.
So that'll be a 5 to 6 lesson course. Hopefully each lesson less than 5 minutes, and we'll obviously fast forward through the AI
The
is coding
grind.
right now, so we're not just going to sit here while that's happening. And I think we can do that in under 30 minutes, and
Yeah,
that'll be really cool. Um, and then I also have, so for you, I have getting the update system working, which it sounds like you're good to go
yep,
on
yeah.
that.
I just want to do some testing of hey, we did this change. Let's go through an entire Monday. It might be Tuesday and all like that, while we don't have a bunch of users on. And that entire process, and that will allow us to test code that I did last week. I didn't, was it last week? I forget. They're blurring together. Um, with the doing the rebuild on the host managed hosting side, so that we're only doing one build on the client and not multiple builds on the client, keeping versions in sync.
Yep. So that's another thing I have is move managed hosting client image to Monday GitHub built image. That's
Yep.
what you're talking
That,
about,
yeah, it's
right?
already been coded. We just got to test it out through the entire process. Today will be the first test of that. So if anything needs to be double checked or triple checked through the week with those builds, we'll be able to do that.
And then the end-to-end test harness is part of
Yep.
that as well.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much done. I'm just gonna add, as I take over and fix stuff, I will find stuff that, okay, I didn't think about that during testing and all like that, and build that out. But every like Friday when we hit that list and I was starting to go through, and before I stopped myself, it was like everything was working the way I dreamed.
All right, so I'm going to move these four things because I also have automate, build, change, release pipeline, which
Yeah.
is also part of that.
Yep.
I'll move that to one priority for this week, which is just to run all this stuff and deal with anything that breaks as part of that. And then the next thing I had on your list, which we can talk about that versus email and heartbeat and stuff, is
Yeah.
the native installer.
Oh, true. I forgot. Yeah, last week so much like a blur. I didn't even think to bring that up. Yeah, last week I built a Rust Tori auto installer. It handles both doing the installer, which can be tweaked and like that, so it's a basic one, but it works completely. And then I this weekend I played around with it, and I the only requirement I had, the initial running executable was a little larger than I wanted, and now I have that where it's under a megabyte to run. So that's running pretty smooth. And yeah, my next thing for that is to go to Mac, run it on a Mac, get you, and that way I can get you before we do signed copies and stuff like that. Get you one to run, and you go, hey, boom, yes, no, what do we need to work on to get that working? Because I played with that both last week to get it running, and then playing with using the technology this weekend. And I think we could, for lack of better words, make a living on that. Because that
Okay.
because well it was just so smooth. It was like you didn't have any of the web hassles or the commands or anything like that. It was simply run it, you're using it. It was that simple.
Okay. And that will allow us to potentially do iPhone and Android apps as
Uh,
well, correct?
that will take another version. You're not using Rust and Tori, you're using capacitor. But yes, the same tech where you're leveraging your React application on different operating systems.
Okay. So what are we thinking in terms of work? It sounds like two separate things.
Yep,
Desktop, Windows and Mac native,
yep.
and then iOS and Android native.
Well, the iOS and Android native, I'm going to not really shelve, but we're going to handle the desktop first because I'm already into that.
Yeah.
And that, like I said, you should have a Mac version running this week.
Okay.
That's my plan on that. I won't do the Unix one right now because anybody who's on Unix, you know enough to do Docker and stuff like that. So I'm
Right.
not, I'm going to deal with the people who that's the target people, right? We have for this is the fact of you don't know these commands. You may not have Docker installed. You may just be on a basic beginning machine. Download the exe or the DMG file and you're up and running. It's that simple. And that if we could have, like I said, we can make a living because we can attract our major users right there. And then the developers, you wouldn't be using this anyways. Developers would be wanting to have Docker using the dev install so that you can actually code in the environment.
Right. Okay. And once we have that done, how much more work do we think it is to have an iPhone app and or an Android app?
That I do not know, so I'm not even going to touch.
Yeah.
However, I've done them before, and there are just some little nuances that have to be cleaned up, usually in the app itself. And then once you get to that finish line, much like the Tory, I just clean up a few things, boom, popped right up. Same thing will go the other way. Find the nuances that capacitor doesn't like that we coded in, and there's always multiple ways to code, so it's not like I don't plan on seeing a showstopper.
Okay. And we've talked about potentially having this so you're running on your desktop, your laptop,
Yep.
whatever, and then you go to your phone and everything's kind of syncing.
If you take your memory and you hit and let or your memory set up to every change automatically gets put up. The only difference is going to be needed is that when you get on your phone, you will have to sync it down. But I see no reason that once we have the phone, so we're going to test both sides, I see no reason why both sides are not automated. Is if when the app comes up, you can have it selected so it would automatically get your memory down. Just like when the app makes a change, it automatically makes sure your memories update. So you would have a start to finish auto experience if you set it up like that. And of course, the ability to change out of it too. If you want to do all your changes manually and save when you want, restore when you want, those are already in place and that can already be done.
Because being able to operate cross device
Yep. That is the
That's
perfect
something no one
world.
has that I've seen.
Yeah, because well, most people they only have one. They don't have all the apps, or you're hitting through a browser like we are right now. But if we have, and like I said, it was just a matter of we need to get two or three more settings in our save and restore for that to work as a hands-off experience. You're on your desktop, you make some changes, you're doing an interview. Your wife says, "Hey, honey, hurry up! You need to get over here." So you get up and you go. And then, of course, you're at a store and you pull up your phone or download the app and it should auto sync immediately. The work that you were doing 5 seconds or on your desktop be on your phone. You didn't miss a beat, and that experience can be automated.
Is there a reason not to focus on that next?
No, once we have the phone to test on, we should because that's when that feature becomes important. When we were just on a desktop saving and restoring, it was like the key thing was always saving automatically, but restoring automatically didn't have a feature need or like that, so it wasn't touched. When you get to phone and desktop and you need to switch on a dime, that's when that auto feature is this lifesaver. So that would
Yeah.
be yes.
Okay. All right. I think that's next then.
Okay.
That whole bucket of work.
Yep. Capacitor to Tori and then auto life. Okay. The only one I'm
Great.
not going to say how long on is capacitor because I hadn't even touched it on BrainDrive. Tori, I know. The autosave, I've coded that myself so I can put that in there the rest of the way, the features that are needed.
So I think getting the desktop app done. It
Yep.
seems like you're already fairly close on that.
Yeah, we're just the nuances like the you only found a few things and the desktop app we're talking about the Rust one that I did. The only thing I found wrong so far that I haven't cleaned up is the links to outside websites. They did because it's not in a browser anymore. So I have to change that a little bit so when it's in there, it'll open up a browser for you. That's the
Okay.
only thing I found at all in that entire thing.
So I would say getting the desktop app live.
Yep,
Then I would say looking into mobile and seeing how big of a lift it's going to
yep,
be. If it's going to be a big lift, we'll probably deprioritize it for now. But if it's a fairly light
yep.
lift, that would be a big deal, especially for managed hosting, because people are going to want mobile for that.
And honestly, I'm even if this is a medium lift, I think having a mobile phone and that type of exposure is important.
Yeah.
And it's almost this is almost like whatever it takes. If we can hit people where they are, which was it's kind of that thing of if you're agentic anyways, don't let people come to you. Meet them where they are. So if they're in the either the Apple Store or the Google Play, you can run on BrainDrive. And you're like, oh my God, I can use this somewhere other than my desktop. Click, done.
Right. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of the next bucket of work. And then I would say after that is the heartbeat.
Yep,
All right, great. So I'll be working on the personal AI
yep,
architecture course this week. You'll be working on installers, native
yep.
installers.
Yeah, and we'll meet periodically so that we can get the coursework and for the PAA, so that can fall in line with because I imagine there's tech stuff that you wanted to ask me about, so we can get them all ironed out.
Great. Anything else you want to talk about this week?
Nope. I think we're dialed in pretty good. We have some cleanup, but we've opened up some roads that we really didn't see. Which, like I said, they could be the difference makers if we're sitting on Google, Apple Store and Google Play. And if we can go, I mean, OpenAI and the rest of them, they realize the value of a desktop app very quickly over just sitting in a browser.
Yep.
So, why shouldn't we follow that $1 million marketing research they did?
Yeah. All right, very good. With that, as we said at the top of the call, our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. We do these calls every Monday, live streamed on YouTube at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You're welcome to join and participate in these calls. We also post the recordings over on our community forums at community.braindrive.ai. So we're also there responding to questions and comments over on the forums. So we hope to see you either or both. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.